tranny,
faggot,
dyke,
punk.
all names that have been used to describe me.
All because of my sexual orientation and my gender identity.
Those words have made me feel disgusted,
disrespected.
My self-worth decreased daily.
But the beauty of life and its experiences
allowed me to find my inner strength.
I am confident knowing that there are others
that are gay like me.
Homosexuality in the African American community has always been a controversial issue, but the male population is taking the brunt of the abuse.
Homosexuals just walking around here with your pocketbooks, with your tight pants and your bow tie, and you're walking like a girl. You need deliverance.
Even though I represent a vast portion of our community, I am guilty of playing a role of the visualization of what a black gay man is. There has yet been an opportunity for black gay men to be shown in their full greatness. We are more than just image makers, BFFs, and characters for comic relief. So take a journey with me, but make sure you keep an open mind, because you're gonna listen to some stories from some men that don't fit the stereotype of being gay like me.
My name is Ryan Ashley Lowery. I'm from Gastonia, North Carolina. I'm a lecturer and PhD student at a local university. Growing up in a small town like Gastonia, North Carolina, which is about 20 minutes from Charlotte, it was a very cohesive environment, very family-oriented. Everyone in town basically knew each other, knew each other's business. So it was just a very friendly community to grow up in, a very welcoming society in general. Very early on, I developed a passion for sports, particularly basketball and football. I saw it as a way to kind of fit in with the kids. I think as a youngster, I always knew that I was different, and a way to kind of be accepted was to play sports, to play basketball and to play football. So I began to realize the better that I became at sports, the less people noticed my sexuality. So I think that was part of my drive to succeed, was to take the attention away from if I'm gay or not and put it on like my achievements. As I look back on it, I think I was just trying to, in essence, prove my worth. And so as I got older, I'm trying to get out of that mechanism, trying to prove my worth by achievements, that I'm worthy because of who I am.
In this heteronormal world, I find it amazing that straight people can't see how a gay man can live a normal acting life. Like, I'm a barber. I live and work in one of the most masculine industries that we have, and I'm a gay man, and I live a normal life. I pay my bills, I go to the gym, I eat healthy, I take care of my family, and I love men.
Hello, I'm Dr. Rondrick Williamson, Dr. Ron for short. I am a practicing podiatrist in the Atlanta, Georgia area. In my history, with being a podiatrist, I've had the blessing of being featured on the Doctor's Talk Show for several seasons. I was named one of the most beautiful doctors in America. Well, I grew up in a small town called Mullins, South Carolina. Most people have never heard of Mullins, South Carolina. A big tobacco growing town, actually. No mall, no big Walmart, no Target, nothing that we're privy to on today. But so just a small town. My mom was a single parent for a long time. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. I was always thought of as the pretty boy, so to speak. When I was a young boy, when my brothers would like to go outside and play in the dirt or go out and play basketball or play football, I'm inside dressed up or standing in front of the mirror doing those type things. I never really liked physical activity like say PE or things like that nature as a young kid. So I just knew something was different about me at the time. It was kind of frustrating in a way because most of the guys, in elementary school or middle school or whatever, were always in a huddle talking about this girl over here or this girl over there, but that just wasn't something that I was really wanting to be a part of. From being called a pretty boy, I graduated into being called a nerd or a faggot. At the time is what, the young kids use. And so that's when I began to realize maybe I am different. Kids at a young age can be so cruel. It made me fearful. No one really understands the enormous burden it is to have to go into an environment, and I call it a hostile environment, and be criticized or be ostracized or be called a faggot or called a punk or called a nerd on a daily basis. It has scarred me in a way because it kind of translates into my life on today. I think as I grew older, in my mind I had to continue to not necessarily play the role, but continue to make sure that I was on this masculine track.
As far as being a black gay man on TV, I don't believe that I'm represented. When it comes to white gay men, you see a lot of masculine, normal, acting gay men on TV, and they're pretty successful. But when it comes to being a black gay man, I find that we either have to be extremely messy, feminine, drama, comedic. No one's ever successful businessman.
I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, Brick City. I'm a Brick City baby. Spent my first 6 years of life there in Brick City. And I spent my adolescence and high school years in the DMV area. For me, childhood was pretty normal. Reflecting back on it, I would probably realize that we were poor or broke, but living in it, I didn't know I was broke. I had a very supportive family, very supportive mom. My dad died when I was very young, at the age of 6. But although my father wasn't there, I was left with a great family. My dad's side of the family, my mom's side of the family, very supportive, unconditional love. A little bit about my sexuality growing up. I would just say that I didn't call it sexuality. I didn't know to call it gay or homosexual, but I did know that I was different from a very young age 5, age 6. There were ways that I knew that I was different and special. And then being raised in the church, I was always taught the power of prayer. And so for me, my thought was, you take everything to God. You leave it on the pew, you take it to church, you take it to God. And so I took my specialness to God. I literally remember at age 6 getting on my hands and knees to pray. And my prayer at that age was, God, take this away from me or take me away. I literally said that prayer often, daily even, because I didn't call it gay or sexuality. I just knew that I was special, and I knew that I was different in ways that wasn't going to be accepted, certainly not accepted by the church or society, maybe even not accepted by my family. I didn't even know. I kept it to myself, and I guess that was the start of my closet, being in the closet.
A lot of times our parents have this life that they already have set. They have grandkids planned for us, they have a wife planned for us, they have just our whole life planned for us. But my thing is that you have to know that at the end of the day, you're the person who has to live this life. So the decisions that you make, you have to be able to suffer the consequences or accept whatever comes with those decisions.
My name is Aldolfo Blackman. I am from Queens, New York. Been in Atlanta for about 15 years. I'm a human resource manager at Georgia Tech. I was the youngest of 4. I have an older brother and 2 older sisters. I grew up in a single parent household. My dad wasn't around most of my life. Queens was good. It was a great city to grow up in. We were in the suburbs, so didn't experience a lot of crime, a lot of violence and things like that. I'm a mama's boy, so me and my mother are best friends. I talk to her every day, that's my heart. Yeah, I moved from Queens when I was 17 years old, but living in New York was definitely an experience that shaped my life. As far as growing up and seeing gay people, I do know that my mom had a gay friend, and it was a male, and I never heard my mother talk negatively about gay people, anyone in my family. I had a girlfriend all through high school, and it wasn't until sort of the end of high school, my senior year, when I had my first experience with a male. Well, I think as I got older, I saw the different stereotypes and stigmas surrounding homosexuality, and it did frighten me, especially in college. I was involved in a lot of organizations in college, and I was always worried about if someone would think I was gay, and if so, if they would think that, I I was a girl in private or anything like that. Just sort of the stereotypes that you see and you hear about homosexuality. I didn't want people to think those things of me. I wanted them to know that even if you do think I am that way, I'm not what you know to be like gay people or homosexuality.
A lot of times, especially because of the way society puts us in this box to where we have to try to be all these different people that we are not to be accepted, that self-love part isn't there because we don't know who we are. I think getting to a point to where you start to, one, get to know yourself, then you get to the point to where you start to love that person that you get to know. I think once you get to that stage, everything becomes a lot more simple. You start to do things as your authentic self. You start to demand respect and you start to demand love because at that point you now love yourself.
My name is Antonio Williams. I am 33 years old. I am originally from Chicago and I am head of community relations for UPS. Young Antonio growing up in Chicago was very interesting. I grew up very, very poor. I am the eldest of 11 children between my mom and my dad. My mom has 9 kids on her own, and I am the oldest boy, second to the oldest. So growing up for a while, it was pretty interesting, pretty fun. I would say life began to change for me towards like 7th grade of elementary school. When my stepdad died. Life really kind of took a turn for the worse. I mean, my mom suffered a series of nervous breakdowns and, being uneducated and having no real work or professional experience, she just really had no real direction as to where to pick up the pieces to the puzzle and really start over. And so it was a spiral really quickly. Where alcohol and drugs were involved, and we would not pay the bills, and lights would be off, and at some point we were homeless. Going through puberty for me was very interesting. I think because of my financial situation, my focus was more so about just surviving and being able to make it and making sure that my brothers and sisters, because now I'm 13, 14, but I'm like a father. I have all of these younger siblings who depend on me because in most cases, mom couldn't be the resource that they need. So being a teenager for me was very interesting because my mom more so treated me like an adult. So I would take on the role as an adult. So I wasn't necessarily thinking about a lot of the things that teenagers in my age group were. When I did eventually get into, the whole puberty piece of thinking about sex and sexuality, my biggest fear was my mom. My mom's a very tough lady, from the west side of Chicago. Now she has all these boys, and so now she has to be a father and a mother at the same time. And so my biggest fear was that my mom wouldn't accept me. And because at times I would hear my mom calling my stepdad, gay slurs like bags and things like that. And so I automatically assumed that she was not comfortable with the lifestyle. So my mom says to me, she said, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm your mother. If I was the person that you feared the most about this coming out, and you see that I'm okay with it, who cares about anybody else? As long as you respect yourself, others will respect you. And the one biggest thing that she said to me was that, people will only give their opinion if they know it matters. So when they know that their opinion does not matter to you, they won't give it. And so for all of my life, which is kind of why I am the way I am today, very outspoken, I speak my mind, but I don't ask for opinions that I don't really want.
I remember being a young gay man and being an athlete at a highly competitive Division I program. It was a very difficult environment for me. I felt like I was constantly trying to hide myself so my teammates wouldn't recognize I was gay. And I think at times they got the hint. I felt as if they knew. I remember particularly one instance coming into the locker room and my locker being trashed. It had all this trash in it. It had this sign on it that had You know, you go to the parks and they have these things that says no more dogs, and it's like X'd out. They had a sign on it that said no more chokers. And chokers were like these necklaces that I used to wear around my neck. And it said, no more chokers, bitch. It makes the team look gay. And so when I saw that, it was devastating. I didn't know if they knew if I was gay, or they speculated if I was gay, or they just kind of related me wearing chokers with being gay. But it really stung and really hurt. So I had to be in that environment and kind of deal with that. I remember going back to my apartment and being really sad and depressed about the situation and wondering if they found out my secret that I was gay. But you know what? I said I wasn't gonna back down. I was gonna be myself. And guess what I did? I went out and I bought some more chokers, and I started wearing them to school. And so I didn't stop wearing the chokers, and I ended up getting the nickname Choke because of it from my teammates. So that was one of the interesting experiences that I had.
I grew up in a church where it was not good for women to wear pants. So the women could not wear pants. It was even my mom, I can remember my family talking about how some of my family members didn't believe in going to the movie theater. That was taboo, or watching certain things. You couldn't watch the Soul Train Music Awards in some of my family members' homes at the time. So being gay or living an alternative lifestyle was so taboo. So through college, through medical school, I didn't play on anything. And even through medical school, which, you know, I had a great experience there. I eventually started dating this young lady, and we planned to get married. Against my internal feelings, I was trying to appease society and was going to do what I thought society was right, thought was right. And I was just going to suppress everything that I was, you know, seemingly having going on inside myself. So we planned the wedding, I proposed, did all this fancy stuff, and bought the ring and this, that, and the other, but then realized that I wasn't going to be true to me or true to her. And so I would have been living a lie. And then what would happen if I were to want to step out into a situation with a guy? It wouldn't be fair to her. So I just canceled everything. And to this day, she and I have not had this conversation about what really and truly happened, but I just let the situation go, which I'm glad I did, because it allowed me not to be hurt and allowed her not to be hurt as well. But when I finished residency training, that's when I met my first guy. And so I did that and began to really appreciate who I was. But still in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not gonna be accepted. My family's not gonna accept me. The world is not gonna accept me. So this is something that's gotta be temporal. It can't be something that I'm gonna live with, you know, the rest of my life. But as my family began to, you know, to find out, you know, they became my biggest fan base. And so now to this day, my mom is my biggest supporter. My brothers are my biggest supporters. But it's been a great experience knowing who I am. And I'm not trying to hide who I am from anyone. I'm not trying to broadcast it with the flag everywhere, which is cool, I mean, for those who do it, that's fine. But I'm just Rondrick. I'm just Dr. Ron at the end of the day, and I can be nobody else.
I've had all sorts of crazy reactions. I've had women say you don't look gay. Of course, I don't know what gay looks like, but I get that. I get, no, you're too handsome to be gay, or you're too big to be gay, or are you sure you're gay? I get all those questions. I get, who made me this way? Why are you gay? You just ain't had the right girl yet. I've gotten all those things. So I've gotten a lot of crazy reactions from that. I mean, I've had women try to throw themselves at me, thinking that they can turn me straight, or, and it's not something that I kind of toy with or I brag about or anything like that. It's been people's reaction, and I let them know that I'm very confident and comfortable with my sexuality and who I am. I mean, it's just me.
Well, you know, coming out to my family was probably it was a breeze. Accepted by the people that I love and care about, and vice versa. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. You know, that's just a small piece of, you know, everything else that you have to deal with being one first of all, Black, overall just a minority, and then being gay, you know what I mean? Like, you can be gay and be successful and have all of the riches in the world, but still be considered in society the worst person in the world. The filthiest, the nastiest person in the world. I think I overheard a celebrity saying that they thought that, homosexuals were perverts, and even in this day and age. And so, no matter what you do in society is actually gonna, when you're gay, a gay Black man is ever gonna be good enough. But for me to come out and be gay in this world was a bit challenging. It wasn't as easy as coming out to my family. And so I remember being very insecure about how people would receive me, especially in the workplace. I would find myself partaking in conversations about, bashing gays and talking about how, gay's this, gay that, just to kind of fit in, because I didn't want people to know about my sexuality. And, like I said, I was in a 7-year long-term relationship, but outside of the home, no one in my professional life knew anything about what I did sexually. And so it became much of a strain, because every single day I was walking out the door and I was being a character. I wasn't being true to myself, and I was being everything that society wanted me to be. But I was so uncomfortable on the inside.
Man, that phrase of being passable or passing, as people passed back in the day in the 18th, 19th century, because people assume that you're either free or not free based on your color. So I believe a lot of particularly masculine gay men like myself, we tend to pass. And in passing, I feel like we're living this almost invisible life. People don't even know who we are. People have a whole other life outside of their family. They have relationships with men, 10-year relationships, and their mother doesn't know. And I think that is just a terrible thing, and I also think it's really constant invalidation. So one of the things I decided, I came out when I was 21, one of the things I decided is that I wanted to dispel a lot of the stereotypes that people have about gay men. So I wanted to, and I feel the best way to do that is by just being myself, exposing myself. And so that was kind of my purpose, and for being open and honest with everyone that I come encounter with. So, and I also got tired of my friends passing, because my friends that are masculine like myself, they tend to complain about things are not changing. And I'm asking them, what are you doing to try to change? Are you coming out at work? And they always have these excuses, this is my private life, no one needs to know. But I always tell them, if you were straight, would you disclose that you have a girlfriend? They're I think I would. So it's not about no one needs to know, it's about that you're scared of that rejection. And I tell them that, you have to be okay with that. You have to love yourself, and you can't be afraid of that rejection that you may see. People are gonna love you for who you are.
When we think about images or representation growing up, there just wasn't any that I could model, at least not in regards to this specialness. And so for me, my family was who I looked up to and who I modeled. My uncles, all very masculine. But when I say that we had a very supportive family, my uncles even still to this day will give me a hug, very affectionate and showing love. But I didn't see any model or anyone to look up to in regards to my specialness. So that was the very reason why I kept it to myself, why I kept it hidden. And the reason why I speak out, the reason why I would talk on camera about my sexuality and even my journey is because I realize now today how much I needed that as a young person. And even today, there are still a lack of quality role models that you can look up to. For me, I live my life out and proud daily, with that intention, that hopes that it could reach someone younger than me, and when I say even younger than me, sometimes there's even some people that are older than me, because there are folks that carry this secret, carry their sexuality internal, hide it for a lifetime even. And so it's just really important for me to live my life as an out man, as a proud man, someone that could be somewhat of an example. Again, this is not for everyone, but this is my story. And so if there's that young person who is that 6-year-old who might be praying for God to take away their specialness. I'm that example to hold on. I'm that example that it gets better, it will get better. And that's what I hope to be by speaking out. That's what I hope to do by talking.
After talking to these men, there was a compelling story that surfaced that we couldn't ignore. We discovered 2 gay young men that came out as a couple, and they were track stars at the University of Minnesota. Speaking with these men was an eye-opening experience.
I'm Justin Rabone. I'm a senior here at the University of Minnesota. We're in my apartment today to talk about how me and my boyfriend actually made huge headlines by coming out. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, north side Milwaukee actually. It's primarily a black community. Yeah, there were times when I was picked on a little bit because of how I walked or how I talked. And it was definitely hard, but I did play football, I ran track. So when I was successful in those sports, it kind of reinforced some belief to these ignorant people that I wasn't gay because they thought that to be the worst thing ever. And I kind of decided myself when I was excelling in these sports to make myself seem as if I were a different person than what I actually was. And growing up now, I realize that you can be just as successful being who you are. People will accept you a lot more being authentic and being yourself. Thankfully, my family has been pretty accepting. My dad has had some problems with it as a black man. He has told me, like, there's things I've heard him say that I'm just like right when I came out to him, my dad told me, I heard him on the phone say, like, when my son told me that I wanted to get a gun and shoot myself. And I sat there with my mom and I was just crying for hours because I'm like, I'm your same son. I'm the same son who you loved when he played football, when he won state in track. I'm that same son. I just am not gonna be with the woman like you expected me to be. And my dad has had a harder time with that than anyone else, but he is accepting of it. He tells me he loves me. He was like, I love you no matter what, you are my son. I just don't get it. From the first text that I sent Brad where I came out to him and he came out to me the next day, slowly but surely we told friend after friend. Friends led into telling family members led into us deciding to come out to the world through this company called Outsports, and we gave them our article, told them, he was like, this is a couple piece, it's gonna be really interesting, and all of a sudden it just blew up. And I think it was because we were D1 athletes, we were on the same team, we were straight passing, and the impact that this has reached is just phenomenal. I've had people from South Africa, Australia, New Zealand reach out to me saying, your story has impacted me, your story has touched me, thank you. There was someone who emailed Brad and myself. He told us that he was on the verge of ending his life. And I sat there and just cried. And he said I was on the verge of ending my life, but then I read you guys' story and I have hope to live on again. And that's why I think that it's really important for someone like myself and for people to normalize the situation of coming out, because life gets better. It is not bad. Being yourself and being authentic is what people want to see. And people will appreciate you for your authentic self. And once you come out, it really does get better.